Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets because as you can see before us, we finally have something interesting to talk about on the Bitcoin chart, although I'll imagine that this is not exactly the kind of price action that many of us were hoping for, but nevertheless, last night Bitcoin was trading around $6,600 before deciding to go and jump off the metaphorical cliff down to where it is now currently trading around $6,200. Bitcoin broke a rather important uptrend of support last night. That was this uptrend of support right there after getting resistance at this downtrend of resistance. Now, some of you may notice that I'm drawing this a bit differently. I'll explain that in a second, but the point is Bitcoin did reject and fall below levels of support, and I should say trend lines of support, rather than getting above an important downtrend of resistance, and we are now falling back below that and getting support on another uptrend of support. And in today's video, I want to discuss this pullback. I want to discuss some of the early warning signs that this video was actually going to be about in originality, and then we're also going to talk about what I think this means for the Bitcoin market in the short to midterm, because I definitely think this has important implications, but I don't think it's as bad as some people are making it out to be. We're going to be discussing all of that and more in today's video. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. As we can see here, Bitcoin is currently trading around $6,280, depending on the exchange you're looking at, and last night, like I said, it was trading around $6,600, and within about an hour, we saw a lot of this price action happen. Bitcoin fell very, very quickly here through important levels and uptrends of support. We saw Bitcoin initially fell through $6,600, and I do believe us falling back below that level probably gave us a little bit more momentum and then helped us to fall below this uptrend of support right here, which has been very important for the last month or so. It's not the biggest uptrend in the world. It's not the end of the world seeing us get below it, but it's definitely something that we didn't want to see, and we did have some early warning signs about that. A couple of them that, like I said, this video was going to be about, and then Bitcoin proved what I was going to say right, and actually did decide to go and jump off the cliff. I was going to be making this video today talking about Heiken Ashi and the MACD, because as we can see here, if we turn Heiken Ashi on yesterday, before this pullback actually started, we had seen Heiken Ashi turn from green to red, and also we had seen a bearish MACD cross coming very soon. We saw the histogram curving down here, and now we have actually seen the bearish MACD cross. That and a couple of other indicators, including the fact that we didn't get a more major breakout, and we hadn't seen the follow through from breaking that downtrend of resistance like I wanted to talk about. The fact that all those things didn't come together in the way that we had hoped for gave a little bit more credence to the bearish side of me. Now, you guys know that I was talking about how I was thinking that we were going to break bullish out of this and that we were going to go higher, but as the days progressed, you probably noticed that I was getting less and less bullish, and I went from saying that I think we're going to break out to I think we're probably starting to trade sideways, and today's video was going to be me saying that I think there's a decent chance that we're going to be breaking bearish, and that's exactly what we saw happen here. Because also one thing that we saw is that, I mentioned this earlier, this downtrend of resistance right here, I had this drawn a bit differently on my chart as recently as yesterday, and a lot of people were criticizing me on that. Not criticizing, but pointing out that that's not how most people are drawing their trend line, and I had it drawn that way for a very specific reason. If you watch the video on the top right, I do have a reason I drew it that way, but I've now redrawn it since it's very clear that we have gotten resistance on that downtrend, as you can see when we pulled back, or when we ran up to the downtrend right here and fell back below it. We're going to be continuing the technical analysis in just a second, but since this has had a major implication on the altcoin market, we need to go ahead and do the crypto market recap. So let's go ahead and give CoinMarketCap a refresh here. And as we can see, Bitcoin, depending on what exchange you're looking at, is trading around $6,275. The biggest low that we've seen, depending on what exchange you look at, is around $6,150 to $6,250. I do know that on Coinbase, Bitcoin went quite a bit lower. We'll go ahead and check the Coinbase chart. It went quite a bit lower, all the way down here on the wick, down to around $6,030. Coinbase tends to do that. Sometimes the price gets a little bit carried away on Coinbase for whatever reason, and this seems to be a good example of that. We also saw that back on, I think it was December the 6th, December the 7th, when Bitcoin actually ran to $20,000 the first time on Coinbase, and then ended up doing it on the rest of the market a little bit later. But nevertheless, Bitcoin is down by about 4.5% over the last 24 hours. Not a major amount of price action movement like we've seen for the majority of the last couple of months. But what is significant here is what that price action has done. We've broken a couple levels of support, and I do think it has really completely redone the way the market is structured right now. We're entering kind of a new era in the market. You see this happen a lot of different times in the market, where you have different, I call them eras in markets, where you have certain technical indicators that are important, and then everything just kind of resets every once in a while. The last major era reset that I would talk about here, the last major shift, was this pullback right here, and I think we've just seen another one right here. Kind of just a major shift in the dynamic of the market, where you have to kind of throw everything you had previously out the window and start anew as far as levels of support and resistance are concerned, and also, to a lesser extent, how your oscillators are looking. Bitcoin has pulled back around 4.5%, and Ethereum has also pulled back down to an important level of support at $200. I'm not going to be doing any technical analysis analysis on the altcoins, on the altcoin charts in today's video. That will probably be what we talk about in tomorrow's video, is the altcoins, because the altcoins have taken a massive hit here. One thing we do see is that Bitcoin's volume has finally picked back up. We see volume picking back up, and if we come out here to the daily chart, another thing that we're going to see is that volatility has picked back up, which is quite apparent here on the Bollinger Bands as the Bollinger Bands start to widen again and start to trend outwards rather than constricting in here. We were expecting the volatility to come back, and that's exactly what we've seen here. Let's go back onto my Bitfinex chart. We've seen the volatility and the volume continue to come back in a pretty big way, although, like I said, it's probably not exactly the manner that a lot of people were hoping for. I did see a lot of people in the comments section and in a community post I did on YouTube and a thing I did on Twitter, there were some people shorting this. So kudos to you if you're shorting this. You probably had a very good time. I didn't really expect that we were going to pull back quite that significantly, but it turns out that's exactly what happened. Ethereum's daily volume is also doing pretty well, hovering up here around $2 billion. Like I said, not exactly the kind of volume that many of us were perhaps hoping for, but Ethereum and the altcoins have taken a much bigger hit than Bitcoin has. We've talked about this plenty of times, guys. It's a pretty common trend to see the altcoins move in the same direction as Bitcoin, but move sometimes over twice as far. And this is a good example of that. Bitcoin's only down 5% on the day, but overall, the altcoin market is taking an absolute beating. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 altcoins in the green, and 2 of them are stable coins, TrueUSD and Tether. And a lot of times when you see the entire altcoin market crash, the stable coins will be up maybe 0.5% or 1% because everybody's selling into the tether into the stable coins. So that can kind of mess with the stablecoin price action because it's very hard to maintain a stablecoin. So you normally see them moving around a little bit. But overall, the altcoin market, like I said, is taking a bit of a beating. Bitcoin is down here, one of the smallest losers actually, but the rest of the altcoin market is not doing very well at all. We see a massive amount of double-digit losers here. I'm not even going to count that. There's probably 30 or 40 double-digit losers here, guys. Not a very good day for the altcoin market, although it probably is a good day to be getting into a long-term investment. If you guys believe these are good prices for the long term, well, being 15% down on the day is probably a good indication that we're getting at least closer to good buying points. I'm not saying that right now you should be buying because I'm not totally convinced that this bearish price action is over. But, of course, it's better to buy when an altcoin is down 15% rather than up 15% as far as generalities are concerned. Of course, you may be catching a falling knife. That's situational. But in this case, I think it's probably the same thing as situational. You have to be careful with that. Anyway, Noah coin is down by about 30%, and Hollower is down about 15%. We do see three altcoins that are down by over 15%, GX Chain being another one of them. Overall, the altcoin markets are not doing very well. Like I said, tomorrow's video is most likely going to be me doing some technical analysis on the altcoins since this new kind of era of technical analysis has dawned. We kind of see this happen once a month or so, just kind of the market just reshuffles itself, and a lot of times that does happen after volatility drops off. So now let's go ahead and talk about the implications of this, because this does carry implications with it. This is going to have ramifications on the market, and I do think it is important, and we do need to talk about it. What we saw Bitcoin do last night is Bitcoin was trading up here around $6,600, and one thing that, like I said in the intro to the video, was concerning me is that Bitcoin broke above that trend line as I had previously had it drawn, and we didn't see a major breakout. And also, if you do that same technical analysis based on the trend line that I now have drawn, then what you also see is that Bitcoin got resistance at the downtrend. Neither of those things are bullish signs. Both of those things are rather bearish signs, in fact, and those are not the kind of thing that you want to see coming out of a market which you're hoping to turn bullish, and this is a good example of that. Bitcoin, depending on how you draw the trend line, I still think both trend lines are valid. Depending on how you draw the trend line, Bitcoin either broke above a level of resistance and then fell right back below it, or it got resistance at an important level of resistance and then fell back below it. Neither of those are good things, and what we saw is that instead of Bitcoin getting above in a very good and strong way this downtrend of resistance, what we saw instead is that Bitcoin broke this level of support right here, this uptrend of support, I should say. And now actually we've fallen back and we're kind of getting caught by another uptrend of support. I talked about in several videos ago, I don't recall exactly which one it was, but I talked about several videos ago how it's okay if we break this uptrend of support, and I said there's actually a decent possibility that we do, simply because we're kind of coming to the end of this consolidation pattern that Bitcoin was in with the uptrend right there and the downtrend right there. That was a terrible drawing. The uptrend right there and the downtrend right there. I don't have a drawing tablet or anything for you. Anyway, we saw Bitcoin break below that uptrend of support, and like I said in that video, it's not the end of the world if we break below that. In fact, it might be healthy for Bitcoin. Let me explain why. Because Bitcoin breaking below this downtrend, below this uptrend of support, it provides an interesting bit of technical analysis for us, because what that means is that Bitcoin then can fall back to an even stronger and longer term level of support, this one right here. Because even though Bitcoin has broken bearish on the short term, what it is currently doing is kind of reestablishing another longer term consolidation pattern with the same downtrend of resistance, but now a longer uptrend of support. We see Bitcoin trading above this uptrend of support with the climax of these two trend lines right over here on October the 25th or so, later on in the month. We just entered a new consolidation pattern, guys. That's pretty much all that's happened. We've had a major shift in the dynamic of the market. The bears have definitely proven that they are still a strong faction in the market, and they are still a force to be reckoned with, and that we're not out of the woods yet, but we have seen, for the time being anyway, that Bitcoin is getting support on this uptrend of support. We're going to talk about in a second whether or not I think that's going to hold, but for the time being, Bitcoin getting support on this uptrend of support is very important, because what this uptrend of support represents is one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case of the bulls, and that is the fact that Bitcoin has been making consecutive higher lows for the last 2.5 to 3 months. Bitcoin has been making higher lows. Guys, that's a very important thing. That is not something to write. That's not something. I almost said that's not something to write home about. That's definitely something to write home about. You should definitely write grandma about how Bitcoin is making higher lows, because that is very significant. And when you want to see a new bull market start, one of the first things that you want to see happen is for the market to start making higher lows. And it's very important that we maintain that trend. If Bitcoin does go below this uptrend, it's not the end of the world, guys. We still have $6,000 to catch us below there. And in fact, like I said, it may be healthy that we go down there. But for the time being, if we can hold this uptrend of support, that is a very bullish thing, because from here, what we can do, I'm not necessarily saying this is what's most likely, but what we can do from here is, since we've already come down here, we're testing support on it right now as I'm recording, and for all I know, we may be below it in 2 hours when this video goes live. For right now anyway, Bitcoin is testing this level of support, and if it can kind of feel it out and get support down here and hold this level of support, we very well may be trending back up here to this downtrend of resistance. Now, do I think that's likely? I'm not sure, and I'll tell you why I'm not sure. The reason I'm not sure is because I was expecting a larger breakout to the northerly side of this downtrend of resistance. I was expecting a more pronounced, a more violent, more volatile breakout when Bitcoin got above that downtrend of resistance, or like I said, depending on how you draw the downtrend of resistance, I was expecting it to break it, period. I was expecting a little bit more price action to come of this, because one thing that we've seen is that the bear market, a lot of the bearish price action from the bear market has mostly subsided, and I think a lot of it's come back in the last 24 hours, of course. The fundamentals have continued to get better, and the technicals aren't really looking all that bad. I mean, there's obviously a case for the bears here, as well as there is a very good case for the bulls, in my opinion. I didn't necessarily think that we were going to drop quite this far, but part of the reason we dropped this far, in total honesty, is because we broke this uptrend this uptrend of support, and that gave the bears a pretty strong case that they were able to run with. But where do I think Bitcoin is going from here? Well, I don't think we're just going to instantly break this uptrend of support. Now, with that said, can we? Absolutely, guys. Things have, the Bitcoin has surprised me before. Bitcoin has completely ignored technical analysis before. There's a very large faction in the cryptocurrency community that say that technical analysis is completely and utterly useless. I don't subscribe to that at all. I think technical analysis is very useful, but I think that there is definitely a case that we go below here and we go down to $6,000. Now, what do I think is most likely? I think what is most likely is that Bitcoin will probably get some kind of bounce here. I'm expecting that Bitcoin will probably get some kind of bounce here and move up for another day or two. From there, we're going to have to do some more TA, guys. Like I said, we just kind of entered this new era of the market where a lot of the technical analysis gets thrown on its head. Basically, everything from this point back, all of that is basically irrelevant now, so we don't really have a lot of TA to work on. All we really have are our oscillators and our moving averages, and right now I'm not totally convinced that we're going to hold this uptrend of support. With that said, I do think we're going to get some kind of bounce. Whether or not it's a dead cat bounce, we'll have to see. But from there, if we do get a bounce, what I think we're going to see is if we do get a strong bounce, there's of course one of two scenarios. Either we get a strong bounce and then fall back below, or we get a stronger bounce and go back up north. I'm not totally convinced that the case for us to go up here is the stronger one. I don't think it is, because if Bitcoin was going to come up here and break this downtrend of resistance, it would have done it 2 days ago. I don't think that's what's going to happen, at least for right now. Like I said, we did just enter this new era, and a lot of things are changing. The market's been turned on its head, so we're going to have to figure that out as the time comes. But what seems most likely to me is that we get some kind of small bounce here, at least, and then, as much as I don't want to say it, I think we're probably going to break this uptrend and come back down to 6,000 from here. Because one thing that you notice about levels of support and resistance is that a lot of times they have this kind of magnetism to them. When you get close to them, when you get close to a very strong level of support or resistance, it's almost like the market's just dragging you in, saying, no, come down here and test me. You can't just come down here and fool me and not come all the way down here. A lot of times the market will want you to come down and to test the level of support and resistance. And sometimes the market overcorrects, as it did down here when we pulled back to $5,750, and that's also something that's well in the cards. With all that said, guys, I think there's a decent chance that we go all the way back down to $6,000 or just $100 lower, like we've seen happen a couple of times now. But does that mean that I'm bearish on Bitcoin, and does that mean that I think we're going to end up breaking $6,000 permanently? At the time being, no. I'm still bullish on Bitcoin in the midterm to the long term because the fundamentals have continued to get better. We've seen volatility drop off. We've seen a lot of the bearish price action drop off. We haven't really seen any bad news. We've seen a lot of good news, in fact. Overall, I think the market is looking a lot healthier now than it was 6 months ago, even though 6 months ago we were getting much more significant rallies. I think most of the bear market is over, and I really don't think the bears have enough power to actually push us all the way below $6,000. And if they do, I don't think we're going to stay down there for very long. I think there's a lot of buying pressure sitting down there waiting for us to come down there and buy a crap ton of Bitcoin, because we've seen Bitcoin hold $6,000 so many times this year, and that's right around the price of mining also. It looks like we're breaking this uptrend of support as we speak, actually. Nevertheless, I think what's most likely is that we get some kind of bounce here, at least something, although we very possibly just fall right below here, get some kind of bounce or something, and then we come down to $6,000. From there, we'll have to see. I do think $6,000 will hold, but I'm interested to hear your opinions on that in the comment section down below. Also, guys, I love reading your comments. I read every single comment. If you get a heart, that means I read your comment. I don't respond to every comment. I do apologize. I get hundreds of comments a day, guys. I can't respond to every single one of them. I'd be responding to comments for like 6 hours a day. I want to give you guys that. So if you want to actually conversate with me, a great place to do that is in the Discord server, and also another great place to conversate with me is in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, link in the description. I go over there and I teach everything I know about technical analysis. There's a lot more videos that are coming. If you watched the beginning of yesterday's video, you'll know that I just uploaded 3 new videos to the course. One of them on a Heiken Ashi, one of them on continuation patterns, and one of them titled how to execute and properly plan, or how to plan and properly execute profitable trades. I'm very happy with all 3 of those videos and all the videos in the course. If you guys are interested in checking out what the course has to offer, there's a link in the description. But that's going to do it for this video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!